The Commanders have made 13 roster moves on this beautiful Monday, and we're going to be breaking them down for you here on the Commanders Report. But before we get into today's action, make sure you click that subscribe button because this is why you subscribe. Commanders news updates all throughout the 2023 season. We're going to have some great cut day content for you guys here on the channel. So go ahead, do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now. Now let's start with the injury news of the day, which is that Braden Daniels, 4th-round pick, offensive tackle out of the University of Utah, is now out for the entirety of the 2023 NFL campaign with a torn rotator cuff. And, you know, this really sucks for Braden because he was looking to be able to make the roster as a backup swing tackle there in his rookie season, but now that has come to an abrupt halt here. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if the Washington Commanders maybe add another offensive tackle here in free agency, depending on what kind of offensive tackles end up getting cut around the National Football League in the coming days. But I was looking forward to seeing Braden Daniels on this 53-man roster. And now that his season's cut short, that's certainly unfortunate for Mr. Daniels. But if you want to show some love to Braden here, get in the comments section right now and type his number 79, to wish Braden Daniels a speedy recovery. We're going to be looking forward to seeing what he can do in his first NFL season there in 2024. Now let's get to the cuts made by your Washington Commanders today. Milo Eifler, the inside linebacker, has been cut. Same thing with Marcus Kemp, brought in from the Kansas City Chiefs, kind of EB's kind of guy there. He's been cut. Jaret Patterson, the running back, has also been cut. The newly signed safety, Joshua Kalu, Joshua Pryor, Zion Bowers as well. All those guys cut, and then 6 more moves here. DaMarcus Fields, Ferrod Gardner, Isaiah Mack, Anthony Montalvo, Aaron Monteriero, and DJ Stirgus. All 12 of those players have been released by the Commanders today. And listen, there's not a ton of surprises here, right? This is the early stages of the cuts. The Commanders need to get to 53 players on their active roster by tomorrow by 4 p.m. Eastern time. So, you know, these are the guys that they were ready to cut right away. And you know, definitely not a ton of surprises. I'm sure we'll have a couple more surprises when it comes to the cuts that come tomorrow. But overall, you know, Milo Eifler, somebody that has played on this team before, more of a special teams ace kind of player that has now been released. You know, spent a little bit of time with the Commanders last year, 4 tackles and a tackle for loss. Now he hits the open market. And then maybe the most surprising or biggest name that got cut today was Marcus Kemp, the wide receiver. You know, bigger body wide receiver in a wide receiver room with not a ton of size, right? The biggest wide receiver in that room without Marcus Kemp is Terry McLaurin, who is 6 feet tall. So, you know, it's definitely lacking a little bit of size in that room. But in my opinion, Marcus didn't look all that great this preseason. And in training camp, it looks like the age has kind of gotten to him a little bit. He's lost a step. So even though he might provide a little bit of value in the red zone as a bigger-bodied wide receiver, I trust Jahan Dotson and I trust Terry McLaurin, who have great body control, who have great hands. You know, I'm not worried about those guys coming down with those difficult catches. And overall, I think that the lack of size in this wide receiver room for the Commanders is overall a non-concern. And then also Jaret Patterson, the running back, somebody that played pretty decently in this week's preseason game against the Bengals. I thought he had a couple pretty nice runs, but overall you draft Chris Rodriguez Jr., the rookie out of Kentucky, in the 6th round this year. Of course, you also have Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson on the roster as well. Definitely not a whole lot of room for Patterson, who was buried on the Commanders' depth chart. So those were kind of the 3 biggest names, in my opinion, that got cut today. But coming up here, I got 2 big news items that are going to have real ramifications here for Week 1 versus the Arizona Cardinals. But before I get into those big Commanders news stories, check out our friends at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code CHAT125 to get a 125% deposit bonus. Now, what does that mean? That means if you put in a deposit of $100 to $600, they're going to match that money 125%. So essentially, if you put in $100, you get $125 additional dollars to use on your bets, $225 total. And of course, that percentage goes up with the more money you deposit. So go to chatsports.com/bet, use promo code CHAT125 to get that 125% deposit bonus today. So now, when it comes to Week 1, of course, the Commanders are playing the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals announced today that they have released quarterback Colt McCoy, who was expected to be their starting QB for week one, and now he is gone, which definitely means, at least in my opinion, the Commanders have a better shot at winning that week one matchup, even though they're going to be heavy favorites, at least in my opinion. So you might be asking yourselves, who do they even have at quarterback? Kyler Murray is dealing with the recovery from that torn ACL he had back in 2022, isn't expected to play until at least week 5 this year. So who are the potential candidates here? Let's start with Joshua Dobbs. Of course, the Cardinals traded for Dobbs from the Cleveland Browns just days ago, and apparently they feel good enough about him where they're like, we're going to throw you out there as the starter. Now, the team has not confirmed yet that Joshua Dobbs is going to be their week one starter. Okay, so I will throw that out there, but many people are assuming that Dobbs will be the starting quarterback at this point. Last year with the Tennessee Titans, less than 60% completion percentage, 411 yards, 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. And he looked, pretty decent in the preseason, but that's preseason. That's mostly against second-team defenses. The Commanders have one of the best defenses and pass rushes in the National Football League. I mean, if Joshua Dobbs is out there, I think he's going to get killed personally. But, the Cardinals could also look to play their rookie this year, the 5th-round rookie Clayton Tune out of Houston, who, I was impressed with his physical tools. He's got some nice arm talent. He's athletic. He can run the football a little bit. But the big thing with him is the mental processing, the decision-making, those sorts of things. In my opinion, he wasn't ready to be an NFL quarterback. And if they throw him out there against the Commanders' defense with some real ball hawks like Emmanuel Forbes, Kendall Fuller, Derek Forrest, Cam Curl, all these guys can get after him and get interceptions. And then the pass rush. I mean, Chase Young has been fantastic in training camp. Montez Sweat had his breakout season. And then, of course, the 2 big boys in the middle there in Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen against this measly Cardinals offensive roster. I mean, good Lord, you're going to throw this kid out there? I don't think so. So my take going into week one here is that players and coaches in the Commanders building simply can't go into week one expecting a win, all right? That's the trap game kind of thing there where you just don't want to fall into that trap where like, oh, these guys suck, we're going to beat them, and then you go in there and take an L week one, and then panic mode sets in. You don't want that. But as fans here, as people that observe the game, people that watch the games, that have no bearing on the outcome, fans should absolutely expect this to be a win versus the Arizona Cardinals, okay? They're not going to have a starting capable quarterback in the game, in my opinion. They've got a terrible offensive line. Their weapons are limited at best, and the Commanders have one of the best defenses in the National Football League. And, oh, yeah, Sam Howell, I think, is somebody that could do pretty darn good in that first game of his career as a starter for the Washington Commanders. And now, speaking of week one, let's talk a little bit about Terry McLaurin. Now, of course, he suffered turf toe in week 2 versus the Ravens. Okay, big concern. And now he's listed as questionable to play versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, like I said, this is likely going to be a win for the Commanders, whether or not Scary Terry is on the field. And because of that, I say don't rush him back. If Terry is ready to go week one and he feels good to play, go ahead, let him go. But I really like the depth in this wide receiver room right now. And personally, if Jahan Dotson has to step up and be that number 1 wide receiver here for the Commanders versus the Cardinals, I think he's the best wide receiver on the field that Sunday, okay? And they got Curtis Samuel, who I love in the slot. De'Ami Brown, I think, is perfectly fine to slip in there to the Jahan Dotson role, if you will, and be a wide receiver 2 for a week. And then who knows who they're going to keep? Mitchell Tinsley, Byron Pringle, Dax Milne. They're going to keep some combination of those guys on the 53-man roster. And, I really do love the wide receiver depth here. So if Scary Terry isn't able to go against the Arizona Cardinals, I still think the Commanders will be heavy favorites. So you got to prioritize the health of your number 1 wideout. Now let me know how confident you are heading into week 1 versus the Cardinals. Let me know down there by putting it on a scale of 0 to 100. Okay, 0% if you think they're for sure going to lose, or 100% if you think they're going to win no matter what. Let me know what you guys think. I can't wait to see how you're feeling about this week 1 matchup. For me personally, I'm at a 97%. As an objective journalist here, I can't go 100% necessarily, but 97%, it's like the Cardinals stink. The Commanders are up and coming, in my opinion. I'm going to go 97% chance that the Washington Commanders walk out of week 1 with a W. And if you don't, I think it's time to press the panic button, but that's just me, man. All right, that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all the support. Make sure you click that subscribe button for our extensive cut day coverage. Tomorrow, we're going to be going over every single member of the 2023 Commanders 53-man roster. You're not going to want to miss it, so do me a favor. Click that subscribe button right now.